Okay, so my name is Devin. You are
Bill Cabin,
Bill Cavan. Okay, and what brings you in, Mr. Cavan?
here to teach today at Temple.
Okay, and did you have anything in your life that you wanted to talk about that's maybe stressing you, or maybe a social problem that you wanted to talk about in your life?
Actually, I'm just coming off of a significant medical problem
Okay.
that really altered for most of August and early September. My mobility was an unexpected adverse reaction to Benadryl,
Oh, okay.
actually. So kind of progressing on that. It seems to be progressing. I have a scan coming up on Wednesday, a doctor follow-up appointment on Friday. Everything seems to be going well, but for the last month or so, it really has been a kind of a bummer
Okay.
in terms of moving around because I had catheter in for extended period of time,
Okay.
and also limited my mobility generally, ability to drive,
Okay.
and bit of depression, but I think could have become more severe
Okay.
if it continued.
Okay.
So right now the catheter's been out for about
So
a week.
what kind of steps did you take to to maybe move on from this situation? Like, how did you cope with it? And
I think the biggest coping mechanism was my partner, and she's retired,
okay.
and so she suspended her activities and really facilitated me getting to doctor's appointments. My first week teaching
Okay.
drove me here, stayed here all day,
Okay.
made sure things worked out. And she's a retired nurse, so she was also able to talk through a lot of the medical issues.
Okay.
And I think that kept me much more balanced than if I was on my own.
Okay, so you had a better understanding what you were going through by talking to your significant other, right?
Yeah, and I didn't feel, not only from the standpoint of substance or
Mm.
medical knowledge, but also just not being isolated.
Right.
So I was able to have somebody, an adult that I was dealing with, instead of sitting around the house feeling sorry for myself.
Right. So what was at the beginning, what was it that you said that the issue was that
So
that you were coping with?
yeah, I was on vacation in Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
and I usually go down there. It's about the 6th or 7th year we've gone down there. It's a family vacation. I have 3 grandkids now,
Okay.
but I usually get bug bites down there, sometimes worse than others. So this time I got fairly well bit up, and I went to a Doc in a Box to get
Oh.
something for them,
Oh, okay.
and they gave me an antibiotic, but they also told me to take Benadryl.
Okay.
And Benadryl I'd always taken once in a while, very infrequently, but they told me to take the maximum dose, which was like 4 a day.
Oh, okay.
And after the second day, I had urinary retention,
Okay.
which necessitated ending up in the ER,
Oh, okay.
having to get a catheter put in. And so that was the problem down there. Then I had to come back up,
Mm-hmm.
go to the urologist in the last 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Been working that through with some additional medications to get myself basically back to being able to self-regulate.
So what were your inner feelings about going through that, from going on a vacation to ending up in a hospital because of that reason? How did you feel up to that?
Well, through that process, once it started occurring,
Yeah.
in addition to the physical pain,
Yeah.
frustrated, angry, and I guess uncertain about what was really going on and what the next steps would be,
Okay.
which fed into frustration.
Okay. So you're telling me it was kind of easy to cope with the things after, because of you had better understanding of the situations and what could possibly happen, and there were people to tell you, doctors, even your significant other, of your situation, and you allowed yourself to make it easier for you. And I could see that you made it easy for you, because didn't want to feel like you were what is it? What is the word that I'm looking for? By yourself. So you had people to look into your situations and find the betterment of you, so you can get back to doing what you did, which was teaching and enjoying your life outside of school.
Yeah, it really was a transition of, I mean, I had family support, but primarily my partner.
Right.
And then getting to the doctor to start finding out more precisely what medical issues were.
Right.
And so once I got that, they kind of calmed me down on that, in terms of knowing what was going on and why, and what the projected course of action was. And then, in addition, having that ongoing support so that I could bounce my questions off of my partner because of her medical knowledge, rather than sitting by myself, not having anybody who was supportive, not having anyone, once I left the doctor, with medical knowledge, possibly getting into a kind of crazy spiral of searching on the internet and getting really crazy.
Okay.
So I think that combination of the technical medical knowledge with the ongoing support was really the key.
Okay, so everybody seemed to be, what is it? You know, it just made everything easy for you, right? So.
Yeah, also I was lucky. I mean, I have really good insurance. I have 2 insurance plans.
Okay.
My one is an employee of Temple.
Okay.
And I also have Medicare as a secondary payer, so I think having that made it easier for me by avoiding another stressor.
Right.
And I would actually talk to my partner about that. Can you imagine
Yeah.
if you were uninsured or underinsured and this kind of thing happened?
Right. So even thinking about financial situations, it could be depending on, like you said, being insured or uninsured, what those kind of situations would be like, how to go through that mentally. So you said that it was pretty easy for you once you had both. You said you had insurances for Temple and
Medicare.
Medicare. Okay.
So whatever the Temple insurance doesn't pay, they bill Medicare.
Okay, so easy.
So it decreases the likelihood I'll have any significant cost.
Right.
So by having that, I avoided the stressor of financial burden.
Okay.
So that I was lucky for that. I was lucky for that, looking for having somebody supportive who also happened to have medical knowledge.
Okay. So how did you feel that the doctors did explaining things to you about your situation, and after the fact, did they follow up and see how you're doing right now? So how do you think they did as far as dealing with your situation during the hospital visit and after?
Oh, they were excellent. Well, first of all, the first hospital visit was in ER in Virginia Beach, and they were really good, and they got me in right away, took care of it, explained exactly what they were doing. And then when I saw the urologist up here, and have been seeing them ever since,
Okay.
extremely, took a lot of time, explained things in detail, did not put me into panic mode that, got cancer or something like that, because you start spinning in your own head
Right.
all kinds of possibilities, and they walk through what had happened and what were the next steps, and it basically would be one step at a time, no reason to panic, and had, follow-up appointments on a regular basis.
So so right now it's just a follow-up, like how
Yeah,
you're
so
doing.
the initial issue was urinary retention, so for several weeks, we worked on getting my body to self-regulate.
Right.
So until I could self-regulate, I had to have the catheter in.
Okay.
So the way they do that is they basically test it, keep the catheter in for about a week, remove it, and see if you can self-regulate.
Right.
You usually will know within 24 hours if you are, and then if you are, the safe zone is waiting 72 hours, so they removed the catheter twice, and I didn't get to that point.
Okay.
So after and each time they kept explaining to me, this is not unusual, it happens, it varies per person. They had also put me on some new meds to facilitate it. So they said, sometimes the meds take a longer time to kick in with some people. So they're very good at explaining that and keeping me on course and not like, what's going on here? Is this crazy? And so then now I'm 5 days into self-regulating, but they also scheduled a CAT scan to get a full picture of I guess the bowel, bladder, and prostate area, just to make sure everything is fine. And then they'll have the results by Friday, and I see them Friday.
So they gave you, what kind of, if this is not too personal to ask, what kind of medication did they give you for this certain situation?
Well, 2 meds. One is to shrink the prostate, because the prostate puts pressure on the bladder, and then so to shrink it, reduce the pressure. The other to get the bladder reduced in size, because my bladder, I guess over time, had become very large, which then makes it more difficult to function normally. So those appear to be working now, because like I said, it's 5 days.
So
walking around,
everything
feeling totally normal.
Okay, so since you said that you were a professor, you had to miss not too much time from teaching the class from the beginning of September. So how did you feel once you knew you couldn't be there for those classes that you had to teach? How did you feel for the students,
Well, my concern was whether it was going to go beyond a week, because in the past, there have been times when, particularly the first week, I've missed 1 or more classes because of how close it is to Labor Day.
Right.
So that's not all that unusual. My concern was getting enough of a confidence level with the doctor to know whether I'd be able to teach starting the 2nd week.
Right.
Because if I couldn't, then I would have to, in all fairness to everybody, say I have to take a medical leave and play out the semester. So luckily, I put my supervisor on alert as soon as I knew, and then told them I would let them know about the first week and then keep them updated, so that all worked out really well. But if it hadn't, then I would have had to cancel, because it just, for students, if they're going to have somebody different, then they should know as early as possible.
Right, so you communicated very well.
And for the courses I'm teaching, 1 class is once a week. 3 of the classes are once a week. So, and the other one is twice a week. So it really wasn't missing that much, and I was able to give an assignment in place of the first class, and able to communicate with the students that there was a medical issue, and this is what we do instead.
So they were able to communicate with you via email, and you gave an assignment, what's expected to be done, since you weren't available those days that you weren't able to teach. So you had the time to communicate with the students even when you were at school. So when you were at home, that's how you communicated. I'm sure everything was smooth for you to do that way, to communicate with everybody.
Yeah, I was able to use the computer. My only limitation is, again, if you can imagine it, a catheter in a bag, walking around with it, so it's awkward. But once you get used to the logistics, you can sit down, you can use a computer, you can go up and down steps. You just have to be careful, because you got, a tube and a bag.
Right, so it's easy for you to move around now that you're used to.
Not the catheter's out, it's like, I feel like it never happened. Right now.
So what are you doing, so are you active? Do you go out, take walks? Are you involved in a gym? Stuff like that?
I'm normally involved in the gym, but I want to get a little better fix, like on the CAT scan. Further discussions with my doc about, do I need ongoing medication? there are any other diagnostics they wanna do. So before I get back to my quote-unquote normal routine, beyond the teaching, which is part of my normal routine, I wanna get a little clearer picture from the doc. I mean, this is very positive right now, but I wanna get a little more information.
That's good. And where is this? What hospital was this?
Well, down in Virginia Beach, it was Virginia Beach Hospital.
Oh, okay.
And I had to go to the ER once up here. I went to Bryn Mawr Hospital,
Oh, okay.
and the doc is affiliated with the Mainline Health System,
Oh,
of
okay.
which Bryn Mawr is part.
Okay,
And
so.
it's only about, his office is only about 25 minutes from where I live.
Oh, okay. So from where do you live exactly?
It's Norristown, Bluebell area.
Oh, okay. And what 25 minutes you said? Where is that exactly?
Their office is in the Rosemont area,
Rosemont. Okay.
which is actually right around the corner from Villanova. You get off at the Villanova
Oh,
exit
okay.
on 476.
So it's probably an hour from here.
Yeah, I'd say that's.
Depending on traffic.
Yeah.
Okay. So, your social, so from what you're telling me, you seem to be very up in spirits and improving in your health. I'm assuming everything is well for you. You're eating right, drinking your right fluids and all that stuff. Everything's
Yeah.
fine.
Everything's fine, yeah.
So,
And I was surprised the doctor put no dietary restrictions on me from the beginning.
so it's a.
He said it's either gonna work or not. He said just eat what you want, like normal,
Oh, yeah.
and either it'll work or it won't work.
Right, so you said he didn't put any kind of restrictions on anything, so.
No, it was just inherently, my mobility was limited.
Oh.
I mean, I couldn't go on running or walking.
So how long did that take you, usually?
It took me from about, I'd say.
You mentioned it, I think you mentioned it earlier, I'm not sure.
Probably 3 weeks.
Oh,
altogether
okay, 3 weeks, okay.
To get to where I am now.
Yeah,
Because it occurred in Virginia, I'd say middle of August.
oh,
Yeah, through Labor Day until last Friday, actually. So last Friday was the last time I had the catheter removed, and I've been clear since.
okay, that's good, so everything seems to be normal right now, you're teaching, everything's going well. How are you feeling with the, classes that you're teaching right now? You feel
Feel
optimistic
totally
about
normal.
this?
Yeah, feel totally normal. You know, it's always an adjustment the first week or two, just like
Because
for the students.
For nerves, right?
Yeah, and you know, you're away the summer, you're doing things, so your voice isn't used to it, so you're talking more, you're standing up more. So it usually takes a week or two as it is, just to get into the rhythm,
Right.
and so that's normal.
Mhm.
And now that that's happening, otherwise, energy level, grading papers, getting stuff ready, it's like
Everything-
nothing happened.
Everything, well, see, there's a doctor's magic right there, so.
Yeah,
And plus, it's also your willpower to, want to get better and move on with your life, You're a teacher and your job is to better the students and make them better people in their school and wherever that leads them to be. So from what I've heard, you are in probably one of perfect conditions. No issues with social life. So I'm assuming you're doing regular exercises and.
not more or less than I ever did before, and the doctor, it's not an exercise issue. He didn't say exercise has any significant impact on this, so, just one, normal routine. I mean, I teach 3 days a week, so those days are pretty well packed.
Right. What do you usually do, like for exercise type, like walking and?
Walking mainly, sometimes I belong to a gym, I get there occasionally, not real consistent on that.
Oh, okay.
But, that's about it, in terms of not a big runner
Okay.
or,
Do you have any like pets or anything like that?
yeah, an old dog that's,
Oh, okay. So I'm assuming you get your exercise. What kind of dog is it?
it's a mini poodle, but it's like 15 years old, so it's
Oh, wow.
pretty much blind in both eyes and has barely any hearing left.
What's it? Is it a he or she?
She, Bijou, it's from my stepdaughter. We got it for her when she was growing up,
Oh, okay.
and she left, and she's has 3 kids now.
Oh, okay. So, do you still walk the dog, or does she? Not
She
really?
barely, you know, it doesn't take, it's not long walks with her,
Oh, okay. So,
so,
maybe short walks.
yeah.
So that's good. That's good. So you're staying active, even if it's a short time. Good. So how is the significant other? How was she when she found out that you were going through this? You got the issue from the beach up until the hospital, and now how does she? How is she coping with?
She was doing well. I mean, she was upset. I think we were both pretty much in the same place. We were both concerned. I think she was less concerned on the medical side, in part because she'd been a nurse for 40 years. And she had put in catheters and taken them out and dealt with a lot of those issues. So that was totally new to me and kind of scary at the beginning. That part wasn't upsetting to her. And we both knew that there was uncertainty until we got to the urologist and started sorting it out. But then I think we were both pretty much in the same place and both felt really comfortable with getting the urologist and then being able to talk to the urologist and having him and then his 2 PAs be very approachable in
Right.
terms of asking questions and getting information.
That's good. So everything's good. Teaching at home, everything at home as well.
Yeah, just, you know, a tiny bit of apprehension because haven't gotten the final word from the doctor, because
So you're still
once the
waiting.
scan, once, you know, then look
Once
at
that in
that,
the clear, then
and then we'll talk and find out if he wants to do any further testing.
okay,
But I'm not, you know, I'm feeling fine,
good. That's good.
otherwise,
That's good.
you know, no unusual aches, pains, or anything else.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's everybody wants to feel their best. So as soon as that's done, then you can live a normal life like you did before it happened at the beach. So I'm glad to hear that. So that's good. Good. Thanks for talking with me.
Sure,
All
thank
right,
you for
next
your
time.
help.
All right.
Yep,
All right. Thank you.
sure.
Okay.